Well, everybody's heard about the bird. The bird's a winner, well, a bird.
Grown men watch this shit?
A podcast about indie wrestling.
Bird is a winner, well, a bird. Well, a bird is a winner, well, a bird. The bird's a winner, well, a bird. Well, a bird is a winner, well, a bird.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, I don't know why I'm doing a Michael Buffer thing right now, but regardless, welcome to...
Grown men watch this shit?
They do, shockingly.
Indeed. Hey, buddy.
Hey. How is it going, friend? What's up?
Well, right now, as I sit here in my studio closet, I am enjoying a nice beverage. I have an IPA here, a red IPA, and
Red IPAs.
Delicious.
Red IPAs are where it's at.
Indeed, shirtless because it's quite hot where I am, and there's all kinds of wildfires out here actually mostly based up in Canada, but a lot in Washington. But the smoke has meandered its way down here to the good old area of Seattle, Washington, and surrounding areas. And it's hazy. It's hard to breathe, man. It's actually deemed unhealthy to go outside and enjoy the air.
That is hearkening me back to that last trip over last year for Bowler, and then when I travelled up to Portland, and we had all those fires all over the place last, was it early September kind of time?
Yeah, it's standard fare that are up here's the wildfires. It stinks, but hey, whatever. So yeah, we're all dealing with it, coughing, not being able to breathe. I'm worried about my little guys going outside to use the restroom. But yeah, man, dealing with it, and I'm hot as a mug in a closet with no shirt on, drinking a burger.
Man, that sounds terrible.
That's a visual for everybody.
Just a shirtless, sweaty man recording a podcast.
Yeah.
Nice. We're actually quite the opposite down in this Australian neck of the woods. It's a bit on the chilly side. It's coming out of our sort of winter time, but then it'll get really hot in the afternoons. I don't know. I don't like it. Other than that, I have been on a bit of a Alfred Hitchcock kick of late.
What movie have you viewed most recently? Are we speaking of Everyone Watches the Birds? That's pretty cliche. Or Psycho. Have you ventured out to other things like what's it called? Vertigo?
Yes. Yeah. So there's been this cool detective series, like sort of a film noir send-up type of deal at the local art cinema that I frequent. It's just a short walk over the bridge from where I live, and yeah, they've had a bunch of Alfred Hitchcock movies as part of it. I saw Vertigo the other week, and then last night I saw Rear Window. Have you seen that?
Oh, nice. I know the story, but I have never actually watched it. And Rear Window is actually a euphemism a lot of radio DJs use for anal pleasures. So I always find it funny when anyone mentions the word Rear Window, I immediately go to that, and it's because I'm incredibly immature. But
did
yes,
Stern invent that?
I'm not sure who actually came up with the concept originally, but yeah, Rear Window for butt sex, man.
Whoa. Learning things today.
So if you ever hey lady, do you like Rear Window? She may be like, the movie? It's like, no, the act. But that's really cool. Yeah, I've always been like a fan of him as a filmmaker, because he's such a not a lot of guys almost become characters outside of their art themselves, and he certainly has. And that's always been kind of something I've found rather impressive.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I've always been a big fan of the auteur kind of directors. I guess that at the moment, like one of the only ones we kind of have left is Quentin Tarantino, to where it's just you completely feel a vibe, very much just that director onto their own thing that you don't get anywhere else.
Wes Anderson too.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I love Wes Anderson. But yeah, I mean, Alfred Hitchcock kind of created that. And every movie just has its total own vibe that is just indescribably Hitchcockian, I guess. And it's just great. The tone, the sort of humor, and the weird convoluted stories and twists and turns. And the dialogue too, really clever, snappy dialogue for like 50s, early 60s kind of time movies, and a lot of really lewd sexual kind of stuff when you read between the lines, which I always enjoy.
Indeed. There's a show, I don't know if you ever saw it, but it was on the USA Network called Psych. Did you ever see that?
I've heard of it, but I have never watched it.
Well, they did an entire episode dedicated to Alfred Hitchcock, where it was shot like the kind of shooting he would do. It was like a murder mystery show, so it kind of worked around all the different premises of a bunch of his movies, and they incorporated it all into one episode. I'd be curious to see what you think about that if you ever got a chance to see it.
Yeah, I'd be keen to give that a watch. One of the other cool things that comes up out of it, especially for Rear Window, because, Simpsons does everything. You watch so much of this stuff and you're like, I already saw that in The Simpsons. But then you go back and watch, what inspired that Simpsons send-up. And it's kind of cool because it's almost like a familiar story because you already know it based off of the other cultural references to it, but then you're finally watching the actual thing. So yeah, that was great. But yeah, so inventive.
I definitely had those events too with The Simpsons specifically. Like they reference so much, you're like, oh, I now get that joke even more now because I've actually watched the source material. Thank you, Simpsons.
Like the first time I actually saw The Shining, and I'm like, oh yeah,
The Shining.
The Shining.
We're not trying to get sued.
Nice.
Yes, good.
Yeah, so I feel like we just open the show every week talking about movies now. So movies
and
indie wrestling.
I like movies.
Yeah,
I actually went and saw the most recent Mission Impossible this previous weekend with our mutual friend Zach, or as I call him, Zaza.
Ooh, Zaza.
Yeah, dude, it was fucking great, man. That new Mission Impossible. How they keep doing these impossible missions, I don't know, but they pull it off. But yeah, Tom Cruise is amazing.
I've heard great things about that. I don't know if it was like giving it too much praise, but I heard someone say it was like their favorite one in the entire Mission Impossible canon.
I felt myself feeling that way as I was watching it, but like at the same time, like saying, I hesitate to say that because that is such high praise. But yeah, there's a strong running for it being the best of the series.
Dang, I am not generally that much of a big-time Hollywood action movie blockbuster kind of dude, but I reckon I might give that one a bit of a watch ski.
I'd like to hear your review.
Grown men watch this shit. Movies.
Yeah, grown men watch movies.
Excellent. So onto the news. We have
Should we get
some
to what everyone's
news.
here for?
Let's jump right to it. What are we at, sir?
Well, the big news, and I think everyone's waited with bated breath on what we want to come up with first is David Arquette watch. So the world of wrestling is a mysterious place. Friends become enemies. Enemies become friends. And in this scenario, we have two gentlemen that were locked in not only a vicious battle in the ring, but over Twitter, social media. It got pretty ridiculous, covered by TMZ. RJ City and David Arquette have decided to mend fences. I'm not sure if it's a one-time thing or it's permanent, but they're mend fences. They're going to be taking on a team of, and it's crazy to even say, one James Ellsworth, and then the boyfriend of a WWE legend, or boyfriend of a boyfriend of a WWE legend's daughter. Excuse me. A wrestling superfan, a WWE superfan, hated
Dave
by
the
many.
Clown?
Frank the Clown. Frank the Clown and James Ellsworth are going to be taking on RJ City and David Arquette at Warrior Wrestling in Chicago.
Wow. What?
Frank the Clown put out this ridiculous video. I personally, I've met Frank and he's a decent enough guy. He didn't have a reason to be a jerk to me, so I guess there's no reason for me to be mad at him. But decent enough guy. He put out this awesome video where he was calling out David Arquette for a match. It's so ridiculous and over the top. And then RJ City immediately responded like he was like it was almost like a joke that he had no idea what was going on. He was no part of. But I guess it was all work because now there's a match.
Or it may be one of those
amazing.
things where in the world of wrestling, things start out as a shoot and then they become a work. Because you got to make that money.
Word. The media part of me is like, oh, everyone's working from the beginning. It's like that's how my brain works. Like,
Such a
they're
cynic.
working us from the.
Yeah,
Yes,
one of these Survivor Series was a work, guys, right?
Everything is a work, friend. The moon landing was a work. The assassination of JFK, work.
Oh,
Anyway,
yeah, I'm there on that one. We could go completely down a conspiracy theory loop, but I don't think that we need to do that right now.
the newest grown men believe this shit.
So many
But yeah,
potential
dude,
shows.
Impressive that two men could put such vitriol aside in order to take on, mutual enemies.
This
And
is
I don't
true.
know
There
if
was
Frank.
quite some bad blood in that feud. I saw some really mean tweets.
The ribs. He broke the man's ribs.
Mm-hmm.
Huh.
Actually, no, didn't we work out he broke the ribs in Mexico and then he went into the match with ribs?
Fuck.
Eh,
Don't let a lie get in the way of a good story.
I was about to say, that
Yes.
fucker broke his ribs, damn it.
Yes.
Jerk.
So yeah, that's interesting. So David Arquette continues his tour of wrestling, and I couldn't be happier.
Can I ask
Not
you a
only
question?
just as a content.
I
Yeah.
don't know too much about Frank the Clown, hence me calling him Dave the Clown just before. I know
Yes,
that
his
he
brother.
is the...
It's Frank the Clown Jr., by the way.
Oh, okay. So he's the
You did not
significant...
catch that, did you? Bandito Jr., Frank the Clown Jr.
Oh,
okay.
of the Bandito Junior elk?
Yes.
Is that a callback?
Anyway, continue. I apologize. Dave the Clown Jr.
So El Hijo del Dave the Clown is is the significant other of Noel Foley, right?
Correct. Yes,
And
indeed.
is he like a proper like indie wrestler, or sometimes indie wrestler, or like a celebrity doing indie wrestling, or what are we classifying him as in that group of
I think
things?
he's a wrestling super fan that probably is over because he is dating Noel Foley, and some actual wrestlers probably befriended him and gave him an opportunity to learn some wrestling, and now he's, I guess, working matches. More power to the guy.
Good
A
for
lot of
him.
people hate this kid. Yeah, a lot of
Really?
people hate him.
Why?
Because one thing that wrestling fans hate is a wrestling fan trying to get himself over as a wrestling fan. Like,
Hmm.
every wrestling fan that's ever been in the crowds get heat, like the guys who are in front of ECW. Some people love those guys, some people like, oh, fucking Green Lantern fan, get the fuck out of here.
I find there's a big difference between like Green Lantern fan, who was like front row ROH fan for all of those shows you've ever seen, versus like Hat Guy from ECW. Like, there's no way you could hate Hat Guy, right?
Well, he was chill, or what? The other guy was the guy with the beard. He oh fuck, Faith No More guy. He looked like the dude from Faith
yeah.
No More. Yeah. But yeah,
His sweet
the
dreads.
super fans who try to get themselves actually over. Like, there's guys who are noticeable, who are sitting front row, and you're just like, all right, they're chilling there. They're there all the time. We kind of notice them. But there's guys
like Brock Lesnar
like
fan.
Frank or Brock Lesnar fan, or yeah, those two guys specifically.
That
or
dude
Superman
with the
fan.
long
WWE
hair,
Superman.
tall, skinny dude
He
with
just
long
kind of
hair.
chills there, though.
Yeah, he
never
does
really
seem pretty chill.
does anything. But yeah, the other two guys are always constantly trying to get on camera and are trying to make themselves characters. And fucking Frank the Clown got so much he's actually dating a WWE superstar's daughter. So
I mean, that's also
whatever.
a point of contention amongst wrestling fans. Like, anyone that's dating someone that the wrestling fans deem as somewhat attractive.
Desirable. Yeah.
Yeah. I remember when I was at the Hall of Fame, where Mick went in to the Hall of Fame, also Bruno and Bob Backlund, but Trish Stratus went in, and there was a awesome thing where it was so cringeworthy, but it was awesome at the same time and hilarious in the moment. But you look back at it and you're like, ooh, where when Trish was getting in, every time she'd mention her fiance, I believe it was, let's say his name was Mike, the entire MSG just booed vociferously at this poor man of every mention of his name. And you could tell as it went on, Trish was getting like noticeably annoyed at the fact that his fans were just booing the shit out of her fiance. So it was, yeah. I think there's a thing where wrestling fans just like to imagine that their attractive idols are just forever like not with anyone. They're just got this virgin
always
purity
attainable.
about them or something. I don't know. I don't know what
Yeah.
these dumb expectations are. But alas.
Yes. So good luck, David and RJ City, especially mending fences to fight a foe together. It's actually pretty beautiful when you think about it.
Yeah, and hopefully those ribs are on the mend. How far away is this match? Do we have a date for it yet?
It looks like it'll be occurring on September the 2nd at Warrior Wrestling 2 in the Windy City.
Ooh, that's coming up soon. That's like within a fortnight, right? Something like that?
Mm-hmm.
Ooh.
We don't really say fortnight up here, but I believe that's
Oh.
2 weeks if my vernacular is correct.
It
All
always
right.
interests me, these weird little differences. I always, yeah.
They play a game called Fortnite, but they never talk about 2 weeks or up here as a fortnight.
Well,
Have you seen
things.
Fortnite the game? I hate to digress.
I've heard about it, and I've heard people
right.
being like way enthusiastic about it, but I think I stopped being a gamer outside of Grand Theft Auto many years ago. So.
All right, I have two things to mention based on those two things. First, if you play GTA 5, we need to play because I have a shitload of cocaine I need to get rid of, and I need your help.
Well, I'm always willing to help with that.
And then secondly, Fortnite is the first game that I ever saw where I'm like, okay, I feel old because I don't get this at all. Give me Halo. I have no interest in this game.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, I've seen memes
gotta help me get rid of those
it,
coke, man.
But, all right, sweet. I don't even know if my Xbox has the ability to play online, but if so, tee it up.
Okay, sounds good.
All right, so next,
What's next, buddy?
Next topic of discussion, I was personally quite interested to bring up the big ROH New Japan Madison Square Garden show. We haven't actually mentioned anything about this, but it's like hugely newsworthy. It just sort of fell between the dates of recording and such. But obviously, ROH and New Japan are running this show at Madison Square Garden on WrestleMania weekend. But they sold that motherfucker out in like record time. I think the only other time that Madison Square Garden has been sold out that fast was for that WrestleMania that they had there, like WrestleMania 20.
I think we talked about it when you mentioned because the pre-sale was like at 60% the last time we recorded, and that was just pre-sale.
Yeah,
so
then they went on to
insane.
sell the whole thing out, which is just bananas. Obviously, all the interesting things about how WWE initially tried to block it and they got it cancelled, and then the Sinclair brass came out and got the show put back on, and then with it being such a success, there's no way that in my book, any of those WWE shows on that WrestleMania weekend are going to sell out that fast. It's been a long time since the takeovers have sold out as fast. I think the last couple takeovers haven't even sold out full stop. But it really puts a pressure on ROH and New Japan in terms of, and this was a thing brought up with the success of All In too, of WWE potentially going after a lot of these guys. We know that the Fed has a lot of the money these days with that enormous television contract that they did a little while back. They're up in the New York territory, brother. But yeah, and then the stock's obviously going very well, so they could afford to be giving guys a fortune. I mean, I don't know how much they want to fuck up their pay scale, because they seem to have always be coming back to that even when they were doing really well. I remember that was the deal why a lot of the bigger name WCW guys didn't get brought in when WCW went down, because they didn't want to fuck up their pay scale to bring in a Ric Flair or a Goldberg when they really could have used them. But anyway, I mean, what's going to happen now? I mean, there's so many guys to where they actually haven't been announced for this ROH New Japan show because they don't know whether they're going to re-sign. The big name dudes obviously being Kenny, Cody, and the Young Bucks, to where I think a lot of people maybe bought tickets for these shows with the idea that they'll probably be on it. But I don't know. I mean, do we give them credit for selling these tickets when they haven't even been announced for the show? It's an interesting thing.
I think a lot of the times expectation can really weigh heavy on what people choose to do with their money. So yeah, if people assume that the Young Bucks are going to be on the show and they're a Young Buck fan, they're probably going to lay their dollar down. And holy shit, man, if the, if the Young Bucks get signed, they've been waiting so long and they were smart enough to do business the way they have. That paycheck is probably going to be huge for those guys if it's true.
Yeah, but I mean, that's what I mean. For the amount of money that it would take to bring guys like the Young Bucks in.
Specifically them. Like, specifically those two.
Yeah, which is ridiculous. Like, I don't think WWE has ever paid the amount of money they would need to pay the Young Bucks in the history of their existence for a tag team. I mean, like, even when they brought the Road Warriors in, which back in the day was probably the biggest tag team signing they've ever had, even since then, like, the money wouldn't have even been nearly comparable, you know? So, I don't know. Be very interesting to see how it goes. But then outside of that, I mean, it's on ROH to keep these guys. You know, how much are they wanting to spend to try to keep these guys? They've obviously got to offer something that's kind of comparative. I mean, I don't think they'd be able to match it, but you think potentially the combination of the ROH deal, the New Japan deal, and then the being able to control their merch and also control their bookings and creative, like that sort of makes it a bit more creative.
Maybe it's one of those things where stipulation of the contract is freedom to work more places. That could even be something that they offer. You know, like, all right, we want to keep you in here. We don't want to go to the WWE, so we might lighten up and let you work other places as well. Who knows? I mean, I can't say for sure, but
because I mean, I think that's what kept them last time. The fact that they could work New Japan, work ROH, and control all of their merch. Like, I think that's what got them on the last contract. So yeah, it'll be definitely interesting to see how it goes. But the other thing is, like, ROH's approach, because there was an interesting interview that came out on the ROH side a little while back, where basically they were asked about, you know, how hard are you going to try to re-sign these guys? Because, like, a lot of people are saying their entire growth, which has been insane over the last couple of years. Like, they've gone from their biggest show of the year being Selling Out the Hammerstein, which is like 1,800 people, to their biggest show now being like 15,000 people. How crazy is that? And a lot of people are putting that on, you know,
that relationship to New Japan.
Yeah, well, New Japan and also Cody and the Bucks. Like that's pretty much what people are saying are responsible for it. And also, you know, Kenny has been part of some of those really big shows as well. So, I mean, they basically put it to the brass at ROH, you know, how hard you can play for these guys. And their response was shockingly chill. They were like, you know, I'm paraphrasing here, but, you know, we're going to definitely do a competitive offer and as much as we can. But you know what? If we can't match it, we're not going to match it. And things will go on and the ROH brand will continue to grow. And ROH has always been about the new guys. You know, even at their strength, they when they lost Joe, when they lost Punk, when they lost Low-Key, when they lost American Dragon, you know, Nigel McGuinness, like all these times it looked like it was the end of the world and then they've just gone on to become bigger. So, I mean, I think there's something to that, as much as a lot of people might not necessarily want to hear it, to where, you know, it wasn't any one of those guys' names on a billboard that sold out Madison Square Garden. It was like the uniqueness of running this building and the vibe of ROH having the momentum and also the partnership with New Japan. I think they're the most important things. So, I don't know. What do you think? Do you think they've sort of undersold how important those guys are to their future growth? Or do you think they're sort of right on the money with thinking, you know, any individual guy isn't all that important in terms of the big picture?
Technically, I think it's really a mix of the two. I think they realize how important Cody and the Bucks and Kenny are to the overall product, but at the same time, they can't openly admit that without, you know, just making themselves look weak overall. Like if they said, okay, we're going to try to hold on to these guys as much as possible because they are this crucial, it kind of undersells the entire product in general.
And it fucks up their negotiations, hey.
Yeah, who would want to say that? Like, no, we need these fuckers. But yeah,
we're desperate, guys.
Yeah. Please stay. But you're right. The ROH has always been about I mean, there were long periods of times where things got stale and it was the same fucking feuds and storylines over and over. But they've always at least been interested in giving new guys opportunities. Like the ROH Top Prospect Tournament always peppers in new guys who have gone on to do great things.
Yeah,
like,
I mean, how many big
Dijak
names have
for one.
won that Top Prospect tournament? I mean, at the time,
Yeah.
you look at it and you're like, I remember when Dijak won it, and everyone's like, who
Yep.
the fuck's this lanky Dijak fuck? And then, like, 2 years go by, and Dijak's one of the top name dudes on the indies.
Yep.
I mean,
So, yeah,
Josh
I think
Briggs, I
they
think, is the most
know-
recent one, and I could see big things for him as well. But yeah, sorry,
He
continue.
actually is exceptional talent, man. Josh Briggs, or what is that? Josh Briggs or whatever?
Yeah.
Or no, Josh Woods.
Josh Woods. Sorry, that's who I
The
meant.
Goods Woods. Yeah, no, Josh Briggs is another guy too. But yeah, ROH has always been willing to give a great young talent opportunity, and who knows? There's been guys like Adam Page who, in the last couple of years, has gone from like a pretty bland and boring babyface to
Mhm.
a really awesome, versatile character who does
Yeah.
some pretty impressive athletic things in the ring.
Honestly, and we'll talk about this more later when we'll be talking a little bit about the G1.
The show.
But
yeah.
to me, Hangman Page was one of the highlights of this year's G1 Climax tournament, which is like,
Dude.
I wouldn't have thought that I would have ever said that, you know?
When he had his feud with BJ Whitmer a couple years back, me and Farmer like, well, we got to get this fucking guy on the show because he laid this promo out that was honestly like one of your better promos for TV that I've seen in a long time. Adam Page, when he was fucking rattling out of BJ Whitmer, and like got that guy on, and Matt actually, while he was on the show, broke the news to Page inadvertently that he actually had gotten booked in Japan. Like Adam Page didn't know. Farmer apparently already knew and mentioned it to him like as part of the fucking the show. And he's like, what's going on? So yeah, but Adam Page has been one of those guys where like you knew ROH had something in that guy,
Mhm.
and they just let it happen naturally. They didn't force anything.
Yeah.
And I think the talent there, if these guys go away, there's guys who are going to step up and take that spot, and ROH can groom those guys because
I mean, hey, you've
proven
got a big new signing with a guy like Jeff Cobb. Like, I can't wait to see what Jeff Cobb does in ROH.
that guy will be ROH champion. It's
Yeah.
like unquestionable. It's going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm not just saying that because I fucking love the guy, but yeah, it's going to happen. There's no question in my mind.
Yeah, no, I agree. I love me some Jeff Cobb, and I think he's one of the most exciting guys to watch on the indies, and I'm personally very happy that he signed with ROH because I could see him growing a lot, even from as good as we think he is now. I could see like a year in ROH, it will be like completely next level.
Doing actual TV time as himself, pretty cool.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm not going to take anything away from how much I love the monster Matanza. But, I mean, he's a distant relative of Cobb, right? Something like that?
Yeah, the cousins.
Yeah, okay, nice.
No one knew that Guam and Mexico were so closely linked, but it's true.
I believe it's the same ocean that connects them.
Don't all the oceans connect? I mean, really,
I don't know.
We're all family there.
I'm terrible when it comes to geography, so that might even not be the same ocean. I'm not quite sure.
I ain't questioning it.
Anyway.
So yeah, but you're back to the original point. Yeah, I don't think the ROH has any problem if they lose some key players because somebody will step up. There might be a little bit of downtime, but there's always people waiting in the wings to be huge stars. Like fucking Punishment Martinez is on the cusp of being something pretty big, in my opinion. There are a lot of guys.
Yeah, and I think they don't even necessarily need to keep all of the guys. Like, if half of those dudes that we just mentioned left and half of them stay. Like, I mean, I could see a dude like Cody. I reckon he's probably staying. I mean, if you keep him and you keep, like, maybe one of the other top draws, you're okay if the other ones leave. Because, I mean, the same thing happened when, New Japan a couple of years ago when all of the big exodus and everyone thought it was the end of the world. But that was really what created the spot for Kenny Omega and Naito to become what they've now become, which is like two of the biggest draws in the world.
Yep.
So yeah,
that's just the wrestling business. People fall away and other people step up.
Yeah, that's the most exciting thing, seeing the next guys that are going to step up. I mean, at the same time, we've had another dude. We mentioned it last time. It looked like he was going to the New York territory, and it has since come out. He was at the Takeover show. Our bro, Matt Riddle, is no longer on the Indies. Shed a
Yeah.
tear.
Well, fantastic for him. From the 2 years or the year difference between last year's takeover to this one, he went from being a audience member to a front row feature, which is pretty incredible. They actually caught him on camera drinking a beer and with his thumbs up last year, and this year here he is in his suit, front row.
I wanted to make
in his
mention
hat.
of that suit. I mean, I love me some Matt Riddle, but I'm not sure that I love me some Matt Riddle wearing a suit. I don't know.
bro,
Is that just me?
But bro, I feel you. But he topped it off by wearing fucking flip flops, bro.
and bro,
He had fucking
that
sandals on, bro.
that hat, bro, that hat was still looking pretty damn good. I think as long as
It
you
was
can
the most
keep
ridiculous outfit ever in the front row. Actually, I think Joe wore like a painter's cap when he showed up for one time. But yeah,
Just a sec. All right, we're recording again. We temporarily stopped there for a moment, but we're back. Anyway, I had a email just come through. This is in no way related to wrestling, but I found it very exciting and maybe interesting for you and our North American viewers. So we have a little weird policy, a government policy in Australia, being a part of the Commonwealth and the Queen being our a very important part of our everyday lives. She's not really, but we like to say she is. Queen Elizabeth, I don't even know if it's the third or the second, something like that. It shows just how great a member of the Commonwealth I am and how much I honestly care about this. But so apparently there's this weird right that we have as Australian tax-paying citizens where if we contact our local member of Parliament, we are entitled to a portrait of Her Majesty the Queen.
what?
Yeah, so
That's awesome.
this came out in like this weird viral article from Vice a while back, and apparently then these members of Parliament have just been inundated by fuckers trying to get a portrait of the Queen.
That's awesome.
Of course I was going to jump on that bandwagon because I know that I need a beautiful portrait of the Queen to sit next to.
What's the size?
I'm not even sure. I'm still awaiting that.
The author is like it's not even an 8x10. It's like real big. It's like like 2 feet by 3 feet of the Queen. That'd be great.
Comes with this like elegant frame. But yeah, I mean, I know I need something to sit next to my my signed 8x10 of Dan 7 and my picture that my parents got with Toshiaki Kawada on their last trip to Japan. I feel like there'll be a great trio on my wall there with the.
And she's all, is that the Beast next to me?
Hello, Beast.
Hello, Beast.
That magical moustache of Dan 7. But yeah, I just right now got a response from the local Parliament member. I don't even local MP we call them, federal member of Brisbane. This is live breaking news, ladies and gentlemen, from member Trevor Evans. Good afternoon. Thanks for getting in touch with me to request a copy of a portrait of Her Majesty the Queen. I have received a fair number of requests, so apologies for taking a few days to get back to you. Can I please confirm that you are a member of my constituency in the seat of Brisbane? Can you please confirm for me your enrolled address by return email? Kind regards, Trevor. So it seems like I am well on my jolly way to getting my portrait of the Queen that I am entitled to as a damn Australian taxpayer. I'm very excited.
The name Trevor has always been one I found hard to take seriously. It's like a name that comes off as very juvenile. Trevor, like
Trevor,
immature Mr. Trevor. But yeah, that's awesome. I just heard an ad recently where you can purchase a gold coin of our President Donald Trump, guaranteed to increase in value. But I doubt I'll pick that up.
Well, I mean, it couldn't get any worse in value, could it, than right now? I mean, I don't know. Anything could happen.
I imagine so.
Jeez. Yeah, I don't think I'd be picking that one up either, frankly.
Well, understood.
All right. So, aside from the run-in from a Mr. Trevor Evans, um, I'm so happy about this. I'm way too happy about this.
He requests for it to be autographed is the real thing.
Yeah, I need to get this sent out to the Queen, or maybe like some paw prints of her corgis. Have you seen those dogs that the Queen has?
Adorable.
Yeah, just awesome. All right, next topic. What was the next thing we had, sir?
The last thing we wanted to speak about before we move on was an actual show that both you and I watched that recently took place in the city of New York. One Joey Janela put on the
Queen specifically.
Lost in New York pay-per-view with the good company Game Changer Wrestling, which actually turned out to be one of the funnest shows I've seen in recent history.
Dude, I enjoyed the shit out of this show, and I'm loving me some Game Changer Wrestling lately. I don't think it necessarily gets all of the attention that it deserves. It's definitely a lot more topical these days with the success of Joey Janela's Spring Break that we've talked about at length in prior episodes. But I think it's so much fun. I mean, it may not be like the best top-notch wrestling that you're going to see, but it's fun, wacky shit. And I read a really fun description of Game Changer Wrestling online a little while ago. I thought I'd share this with you because I enjoyed it so much.
Please.
This person referred to GCW as like the East Coast version of PWG, but with a bit more death matches, botches, and meth.
The capper is great. Oh man, yeah, man. If you're going into a GCW show expecting New Japan Wrestling level work rate, get the fuck out of the building because you're going to be severely disappointed. But if you're going to have a good time and enjoy wrestling at its finest, where these guys are doing insane things and they're huge, gigantic characters of
just
ridiculous
wacky
nature.
as fuck matches that you never thought you would ever see in your life.
Pairings. It's more akin, like anybody who's been to Spring Break the last few years knows the kind of matches that Joey Janela likes to throw together, and more of the same here on this show.
Yeah, so great. I mean, the other thing, even like if you're not necessarily expecting the best wrestling on these shows, sometimes they'll just surprise the shit out of you, and you'll be like, that was actually fantastic. So. I mean, I love it. Just the whole vibe of it's really fun. And especially like this show in particular, because it was basically like a live pay-per-view. It was originally streamed on the Fight TV this past Saturday. And it was like the version that they posted up on SmartMark was just the entire live feed from start to finish, which was great because it kind of really captured the live vibe of the show. You know, one of the things that I don't so much like about the PWG releases is that they're so heavily like they edit out the entrances and it's just like, all right, bell to bell, that's pretty much all you get. Whereas on this show, you got like the complete feeling of almost being there for the whole event. From like Larry Legend, the ring announcer. I love me some Larry Legend. I think personally he is the best ring announcer going today. He got me so excited about all these matches. He even got me really excited about the food that they were serving there on the night at this awesome Queens venue. They had hoagies, strombolis, and some big fat Italian sausage. I was very excited about all of these things, and quite sad that I couldn't go upstairs to the balcony and order some of this food. The drinks sounded pretty good as well. To the commentary by, I believe it was Danny Havoc.
It got mixed up. Danny Havoc, Kevin Gill was up there for a period of time. Hot Sauce Tracy Williams.
Kevin Gill, super nice guy. Such a nice guy. He's delightful.
You're about to marry a motherfucker.
delightful in person. You know, I had a great time hanging out with old KG at that Wale Mania after party. But his commentary, maybe not so much. I can say that his matches maybe made me really look forward to the matches that had commentary that weren't going to be featuring Kevin Gill. To put it nicely.
For sure, I do enjoy a KG, and I have enjoyed him on commentary at times, but it can be a bit distracting because he gets almost kind of cliche heavy. But hey, I love cliches, so who people might not like that type of commentary, but I personally I found Danny Havoc kind of like felt like the whole time he was underwhelmed. Like nothing really got him excited about the entire show. He's kind of talking about it. Did you get that feeling at all?
I kind of like that because in my mind, you know, Danny Havoc is announcing every one of these GCW shows. So, like, you know, from the deathmatch stuff to all of the crazy wackiness, he has really seen it all. And he just sounds like a guy that has seen everything. And it's like, oh, yes, and here is a man that is running on fire through this building into a pool of thumbtacks. Yes.
Let's not tag KG in this commentary. No one tag KG on Twitter, damn it.
No. We love honestly, you, KG. We love you, KG.
Yeah. The show was fucking awesome, dude. Like, my personal favorite I've always enjoyed him, but Orange Cassidy is probably one of the most unique wrestlers in the world.
How fun is his shtick?
It's great because the best thing about it, it's kind of like Silent Bob from Jay and Silent Bob. Like, he never speaks, but when he does, it's impressive. So when Orange Cassidy hardly does shit the entire match. So when he actually does, and he like does that springboard moonsault twist to the outside, it's like, holy shit, he did that?
Yeah. So he was in this was actually a funny thing in and of itself, and exactly why I love Game Changer Wrestling. They were in the Golden Ring ladder match. No, the brass ring. You have to climb the ladder to retrieve the brass ring to make your hopes and dreams come true. And it was
the actual the reward or the prize was whoever got it got to choose their match at Spring Break 3.
Yeah, which I'm quite excited about. But yeah, that was actually great. I loved Orange Cassidy's thing that he took onto. It was like a table that was sitting on the top rope, and I can't even remember what the spot was. We ended up taking this sick looking move onto the table, and then he just kind of like proceeded to lay and chill on the table for the next like 8 minutes of the match, because that's what he does.
Yeah. He did the laziest Canadian destroyer you ever seen in your life, and it was fucking great.
Really was. And another guy, props to, shout out to the different boy, Jimmy Lloyd. I really am starting to enjoy Jimmy Lloyd. He's always been a fixture of all of the Joey Janela Spring Break shows. And I'm really starting to pick up what he's putting down.
Yeah, I on Twitter, of course, sometimes MLJ will show some of the CZW like house show stuff where all the guys who are training are doing their shit, the dojo shows. And I watched Jimmy come up through the dojo, and I like seeing this guy who's just kind of a chubby, portly guy with scraggly hair and not the best complexion. And I'm like, oh, that guy is not going to be anything special in wrestling. And boy, was I wrong. He reminds me of Sami Callihan. Like early Sami Callihan. So it's like a new version of that, and I'm really impressed because
I kind of see him as like a hybrid between like a early Sami Callihan / like Mikey Whipwreck. Like if he's trying to just jam both of those dudes together.
That makes sense.
How about his entrance?
Make sense, but it works. Oh yeah, his mom.
So his entrance is just like his mum berating him, and then he hits her with a light tube. And then she continues to berate him.
And then it's like some weird, like, punk rock, techno rocks. I don't know what the hell. But yeah, it's probably one of the more interesting entrance songs or entrance videos you'll ever see.
And this was a beautiful venue. That nice entrance screen set up with all the TVs and it just looked nice. It's a lot of shows are looking like they're taking place there. Is it? What's the name of this venue? I want to say Webster Hall, but I know it's not Webster Hall.
Yeah, some people I forget, but when I was tweeting about or live tweeting the show, some people mentioned they were actually in attendance during the show, and the building itself, while it is a little bit smaller, the way they kind of have set it up as they definitely maximize the area, and you wouldn't believe with the ladder match that we're talking about, the stuff that they were able to pull off in such a small area, a small square footage of area. Because really, like, the cameras hardly moved. It was kind of fixated or static a lot of times just on a very small area. But yeah, pretty impressive with all the shit they were able to pull off with this ladder match.
Yeah, man.
I'm sure audience
Melrose
members got
Ballroom.
repeatedly.
Melrose Ballroom.
Good old Melrose Ballroom.
And they've got they had the big MLW show there a little while back, and seems like we've got some other shows coming up there in the near future as well. So seems like the new hotspot in New York, new cool venue, Melrose Ballroom. I'd love to go there sometime.
I hear you, man. I need to make it over to New York, and I think the first time that's gonna happen is probably, despite my best interest of avoiding it altogether, is going to WrestleMania again. I didn't want to, but it's starting to sound more and more fun as the time goes on.
Man, I'm the same. I think it'll be so unrealistic for me to be able to do that. In addition to this trip coming up for Bowler, and then I got my buddy John's wedding in June, and then was potentially going to have a trip to Japan between those two things. I just need to win the lotto. Is that what you call it over there? The lotto?
The lottery.
Lottery, yeah. I don't even enter that, so I think I'm far away from winning it. Anyway, back to the commentary. I wanted to make special shout out to, again, Danny Havoc and his rotating commentators. I think we had... I can't remember. I'm not even going to try to. But it was all great. There was a couple of highlights that I wanted to make mention of. During Dirty Daddy Chris Dickinson's match, which I really enjoyed, Dickinson and Teddy Hart, really fun. They made a fun mention of Dirty Daddy Chris Dickinson not being a guy that you want to spend a night with at the bus depot, which to me was
there's a story there. There's a story
descriptive, there. Yeah. But at the same time, it brought me back to like some real life memories of American bus depots, on my last trip, I think I was coming back from San Antonio to get to Austin, and we had like a bit of a extended time we had to wait in this bus depot, and some of these bus depots are scary enough places, already, before you add in some unsavory characters. But to me, there was one guy there that really just scared the fucking shit out of me. It was a dude that just looked real rugged and gruff and scary, but then he proceeded to spend the entire time that we were there at the bus depot riding around the bus depot on like a little kid's trike. Like this indoor...
Oh my God.
Yeah, and he'd just silently go around and around this bus depot on this trike. I was like, I'm going to die.
Holy shit.
It was so fucking scary, man.
If that guy, like... It's one of those things where this guy, he has to know he is fucking with everybody's head by doing this. Mm-hmm. That is so freaky.
Yep, everyone else was sort of like glancing at one another, like making eye contact, like, oh man. That brought me back straight to that moment. And then I was just imagining Dirty Daddy being the dude that was riding that trike around the bus depot, and that made it maybe even scarier.
One thing I did speaking of Dirty Daddy, I saw Chris down in New Orleans, and he was in pretty good shape. He looked like he's like putting on a little bit of a gut. I don't know if he's like trying to add a bit more dad bod to this Dirty Daddy gimmick. But he looked like he kind of chubby, and I think it'd be awesome if like there was a guy who was like definitely fit, but he let his gut get a little bit big, so maybe people are less intimidated by him, but still was fucking ripped as hell, like the actual dad bod badass. That'd be fucking dope.
Dad bod, like badass.
Like fucking Tank Abbott, man. Like some guy's got a big ass gut, but you wouldn't fuck with him in a million years. Chris Dickinson. He like called him the putrid papa.
Yeah, he had all these sweet extended intro
Something
lines.
Filthy father. Yeah, so dirty daddy, the filthy father, the putrid papa.
So good.
I love Larry. He's fucking great.
As soon as you said dad bod badass, I was like, who is that? There is a bad dad bod badass already in wrestling. And sir, I believe you are forgetting about everyone's favorite mean asshole dad of professional wrestling, Silas Young.
Oh, but he doesn't have the gut. Kevin Owens is a dad bod badass.
He's true.
Like a tough fucker with a bad dad bod, the baddest dad in the world.
Yeah, I love me some Chris Dickinson, and I don't know, maybe he was just on like a bulk or a dirty bulk or something. Because every time I see him, I'm like, that dude is in mad shape.
Cut.
Yeah.
Like he doesn't look kind of jiggly.
Modern day Bas Rutten, in my opinion.
Like I'm the last person to talk about anybody's gut being jiggly, but hey,
guys,
we could smell our own.
Man, if wrestling the last couple of weeks has taught us anything, is that we should do more in the way of body shaming
Lifting people up. Oh, the exact opposite. I thought we were going to lift people up, but body shaming, okay. I love how you turned out to say the exact opposite thing I thought you were going to say.
Yep, there you go.
Yeah, man. People need to be tighter. They need to be, more fit. What am I talking about? That whole thing with Dave was so fucking ridiculous.
And the most ridiculous part of it, I don't know if we need to explain a little bit, was I think Dave got caught off seeming like he was saying something that he didn't quite mean about Peyton Royce, about her maybe not necessarily needing the boob job that she has recently had in terms of general attractiveness. Obviously, there's quite a dichotomy there of, males saying things about females' bodies that is maybe not too welcome in the current day and age and political climate in which we live. But Dave's choice of words were about she was better when she was lighter. I think Dave was trying to be a bit clever in not overtly saying about
cheeky.
She was better when her boobs were not as enormous. However, people seem to have taken that in thinking that Dave is complaining about her weight, which he was not. But yeah, it was quite a thing, and Dave got in a little bit of trouble. But he issued a very nice apology.
Which was fucking. The apology was good, and then people like trying to
even
act
tear
like
that down.
The apology wasn't enough, and he's like, "No, I'm." Dave just falls up. No, I get it. I am certainly sorry. You guys all have a valid point. I fucked up. I'll try to be better. That's all he kept saying. If you're like, "Oh, that seems like a cop out," to flat out apologize. Get the fuck out of here. Especially a lot of these people. I get it. You work for the WWE. You're going to toe the company line. You're going to support your coworker. But these are the same people that did not raise a fucking stink when all of their female coworkers were not allowed to work a show in Saudi Arabia simply based on their gender. And then their company took home a huge paycheck for doing so. So it really kind of shows where your political beliefs lie when it comes to maybe towing a company line.
Yeah, it's a weird thing, and it's like the way that it goes is it's like almost the feeling that a lot of these people, if they're not getting Dave's blood or like burning him on a cross or something, they're not going to be happy either way. So I don't know. It's a weird time that we live in.
Seth Rollins said -6 stars, Dave.
Oh, Seth.
Oh, got him, Seth.
Jumping on the bandwagon. Ugh.
Yeah.
Anyway, in closing up about this show, I also wanted to give props to the amazing main event that we got with our man PCO with one of Matt Riddle's last matches on the indies. I thought this was everything that this match should have been. It was, and it was then some. I enjoyed everything about it. Please tell me your thoughts.
I agree 100%. That is, to me, what wrestling is all about. Two people who don't necessarily mash up style-wise in a match to see how these styles clash. And it's the characters between these two, like two of the biggest characters in the world. And then Destro throwing himself into the mix toward the end of the match.
Oh, man.
Wow.
What a great moment. I mean,
Yeah.
from PCO's new music, that was like this old Frankenstein's monster, like 50s B grade movie music. I love the shit out of that. He's got this
Mhm.
new gear that's almost like a Mad Max type of vibe. And then, at the peak of the match, where it looks like PCO is actually dead from when he took a sick German suplex from the top rope, and he landed pretty gnarly as well. He didn't take one of those like clean, just moonsault bumps. He like really took that. It looked like on the shoulder or neck. That kind of was like ooh. But then the music hits, and who comes out? None other than saddest trainer extraordinaire, Destro, and I was so happy to see him. And of course, he had his battery electricity clamps in tow.
What I was worried about is like when he was doing that, like, what if motherfucker inadvertently actually electrocuted himself? Like in the as he's doing a fucking run in during a wrestling show, dude fucking drops dead from getting electrocuted. Like there was an opportunity for that to happen. There was a small chance, but it could have happened. Glad it didn't. Imagine people go to a wrestling show. Oh shit, dude did a run in with a car battery, electrocuted himself, and died.
Yep.
The
That wouldn't
risk
have
we
been the
take for
greatest.
wrestling.
Yeah, I mean the live situation with the live stream and everything as well. That
Oh
wouldn't
god,
have
it
been
would have been
ideal.
great. I'm kind of morbid, but it's like the most legendary thing to ever happen on the pay-per-view.
Jeez. Oh,
Yeah,
but no,
yeah,
I
that's
love
right. I said it.
I love this match. Destro zaps PCO back to life because, as we know, he is not human. And PCO went on to get the incredible victory. And what a great moment it was. Perfect.
Tremendous show. And we didn't really talk about it, but fucking Hakushi being on the show.
Oh, dude. Like,
Another good part was all the fucking during the intermission they spliced in all these old classic commercials from America.
I wanted to make
and it was
shout out
so
to that.
fun.
I watched it, we didn't watch it live. We watched it on a bit of a delay, but I watched that whole intermission without fast forwarding a single thing because I loved those old 90s commercials that they just played all the way through. We got like a Subway commercial, I think was my highlight of all of them.
Yeah, a bunch of good shit. And then my girlfriend was sitting there watching it with us. She's like, I am seriously more entertained by these commercials than a lot of the wrestling matches we watch. I'm like, I know, it's so weird because she's quite a bit younger than me, so she like these commercials she probably barely remembers. They're vivid in my imagination because I remember seeing all these fucks. But yeah, what a great thing for them to do. And then they also spliced in like pieces of like promos, like
little excerpts.
Nick Gage. Yeah. So interesting.
Like the one
that's
where
gotta be John Carlo coming up with all that.
Oh yeah, dude's a genius. And like the bit where Joey was wrestling some sort of match in an outdoor thing, and he went to like jump off of these like portable toilet
porta
stalls,
potties.
and he's like walking across them, and the roofs are like caving in as he's walking across them to like do the dive. And in one of the porta potties was none other than Jake the Snake Roberts, and then he like cuts a promo on him
So
afterwards.
Good. Yeah, so good.
So great. But yeah, I mean, the commercials were great for me. Like as an Australian, obviously, I didn't get to see this stuff growing up, but it's like I just love that kind of retro nostalgia. There's something about '90s American commercials that is a magic that us Australians never quite got. So I loved it.
The Tombstone Pizza one, dude. The Tombstone Pizza one is so classic. It's like, what do you want on your tombstones? Pepperoni and cheese. Pepperoni and cheese. It's so good.
I need to just spend a full night watching old American commercials. I did go through pretty much all of the Jack in the Box ones a little while ago. They're so good.
If you ever want to get real weird, all the Skittles commercials are fucking out of their mind. Like a majority of them make no fucking sense, but you're left like, what the fuck just happened? But you're definitely laughing.
Nice. So good.
Yeah.
I also wanted to make a special mention in that that ladder match that we were referring to, the brass ring one. There was a moment where one of the ladders that they used had a very clear sticker that said "property of Walmart."
Yes. There was a Walmart chant that broke out. Did you hear that?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
I appreciated that.
And honestly, the 6 guys that were in that match is what a strange group of dudes too. Like Eli Everfly, actually, I heard recently he fucking walked out on a show because it was like an intergender match and he didn't want any part of it. So he was talking shit and they fucking got pissed and kicked him the fuck out.
That's weird. Yeah, I last watched Eli Everfly on the first PWG show at the new venue, the Time is a Flat Circle. There was like a local...
he got booked there? I didn't know that.
Yeah, it was like a local guys 4-way, kind of like the best of that sort of West Coast indie scene, all sort of their chance to show what they got. Had Brody King in it as well. He was the winner of the match. The other dudes, I can't remember off the top of my head, but yeah, other real standouts from that scene. But Eli Everfly is a tiny man, and I never thought there would be another guy on the show that makes Eli Everfly look big, but there was. Did you see Marco's match?
Yeah, Marco Stunt, I guess. I don't know what his fucking... Is that what they say his gimmick last name is? But yeah, what that was the best fan interaction in a match ever.
This was nuts. So it was who did the call out?
Oh fuck, I forget that guy's name. I've seen him on a couple of the shows for them.
Oh, he's a name
KTB or something like that.
Yeah, KTB. I always think of KGB, and then it's KTB. I think we got it right. Good save there. But yeah, he did this call out to like anyone in the building, and then this dude from the front row just puts his hand up as like 4-foot kid, and then the kid comes out and ends up working the match. Obviously, he's been wrestling around the scene a little bit, but it was perfect. And from being so excited on that, next thing we hear, he's been announced for this over budget battle royal for All In.
So great. Like instantly he went from a nobody character to so over to now on one of the biggest shows of the year. Pretty tremendous. I really hope
wrestling, my friend.
I really hoped that he had just gone back and sat in his seat in the audience, but he did go to the back. But had he just, after the match, went back and sat down to watch the rest of the show, I would have lost my shit.
That would have been wonderful.
Yes.
Anyway, there's always ways that, if by doing the, what do people call it? Backseat booking.
Hindsight is 20/20, my friend.
That's true.
They say that.
Mm-hmm.
Hindsight is 20/20.
Final shout out to one of my favorite lines in the commentary of the whole show. I can't remember which match this particularly was, nor who it was referring to, but I just wanted to give props to the term general cuntiness.
That is a behavior we have all seen people behave in, so yes. Oh, you're not being a real dick. You're just kind of... This is a general cuntiness about you. I love it.
Yeah, so good. If I had to guess, I'd think it'd be like Chris Dickinson, because he seems like a real general cuntiness kind of a fellow. But,
sure.
Yeah. I thought that was a good one. Anyway, that's
I
been our...
go into battle with general cuntiness.
Yeah.
I follow you everywhere you go, general cuntiness.
Amazing. All right, that will close our coverage of GCW, Joey Janela's Lost in New York. Oh, sorry. Props to Jinsei Shinzaki, looking fucking amazing at like, what was he, late 40s, early 50s against Joey Janela. This was like the best Jinsei Shinzaki match I've seen since like the one with Bret Hart. It was awesome. He did so good.
I was a huge fan. I had kind of had to explain to Alicia who Hakushi or Jinsei was, but yeah, I the whole thing when he came out wearing all the gimmick, fucking looking cool as hell. Didn't have the tattoo, sadly, but it's all right.
It's a lot of work.
You can't have everything.
It's a lot of work to put all those tattoos on. I don't know how we did it back in the day.
I always felt like maybe it was like a one sheet thing, like they just kind of put on him.
I mean, I'd hope so, but I mean, how would you actually do that? This is
like
insane.
one of those tattoo stencil things. But
I assume they're in like strips.
Crazy.
You know, strips may have been the way to go.
There you go.
Yeah.
He was cool as hell, and it was awesome to see him on the show. And shout outs to Joey for making all of these like insane fantasy. Like as a wrestler, you'd be like, well, hell yeah, I want to wrestle Glacier and fucking Hakushi and fucking what was it last year at Spring Break?
Great Sasuke.
Yeah, Sasuke. Yeah, so like I would pick and choose the most amazing opponents, and Joey is getting that opportunity, and fucking good on him, man.
Yeah.
Hakushi, how cool.
Hakushi took a badass looking Death Valley driver from Joey as well. Looked like he fucking killed him on that one. And
yeah, he's a big dude.
Yeah, but dude is still in mad shape. And I mean, I watched a bit of Michinoku Pro from time to time, which is the company that Jinsei Shinzaki is still affiliated with. And I even saw Shinzaki in person on my last trip to Sendai. And it's safe to say he calls his spots. He doesn't do everything. He does his big things, and that's about it. But fucking hell, this was different to that. After seeing him like for the last decade and a half of just kind of not phoning it in, but wrestling like a man going into his early 50s, probably in all rights should be wrestling, to just going out all stops in this craziness, I thought it was so good, and it was way more than I was expecting from Jinsei Shinzaki. So great job to go guys.
Looking over and seeing, hey, there's my old stomping buddy PCO from the WF days being a fucking crazy old man. I can't let this guy be the only one being a maniac. So he went full force. Yeah.
And also, as always, shout outs to the amazing talent of Giancarlo for the hype video for this match. Holy shit. How good was that?
Cool. I love the chair bit when he slides the chair underneath the table and they fucking fuck themselves up. Like it's like slapsticky goofiness, but awesome.
Yeah, and where he like tips the table over, and it was great. It was like a send up of every great Kurt Russell action movie, mixed with kung fu bits and amazing. But the
I love bad boy.
I love that we can look into this deeper. From the fact that this is the lower level boss in Shinzaki, but we know there's going to be a top level boss coming. Like all of our favorite Street Fighter or Mortal Kombat games, we've got a top boss that we don't know who it is yet.
You would assume it's someone Japanese because that's how it's been going, right?
You'd think so, and I'm like, who could it be?
Who could it be?
I mean, like, could Dick Togo maybe? I'd love to see Dick Togo.
But is he the step above fucking Hakushi? Like, is he? I know Dick Togo is a big star, but would he be the level above that?
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting one. I mean, both sort of big stars of Michinoku Pro, actually. I mean, I would think that Sasuke is sort of a level above both of them, but we've already had Sasuke. Yeah. So... Sure. I mean, what do we? The one that's in the back of my mind that's like this can't happen because he's retired.
Chono?
I was gonna say Onita. Could we get Onita coming out of retirement for one last big American retirement match against Joey Janela?
That could be pretty interesting.
Like exploding cage match.
I thought Joey said he was done with deathmatch stuff though.
Well, you'd have to make an exception if you're getting to wrestle Onita, right?
Well, yeah, that's why I found it such strange to have Onita be in the possible pick. But fuck, I mean, wrestling, never say never. So even if you are retired from deathmatch, doesn't mean it can possibly happen. Fuck it.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm excited to stay tuned to see what will be next on the horizon for Joey Janela's ridiculous matches. I mean, the next on the horizon, did you see what they announced for his match in Asbury Park coming up next month?
I probably did, but it's escaping me now. Go.
He's wrestling Psychosis in his original gear, and they made mention that they would be forcing him to come out to his old WCW entrance music.
What the hell? I thought Nicho's knees were all fucked up and he can't, like, Nicho the millionaire.
Yeah.
I thought he can't his knees are all jacked up.
Yeah, he is pretty jacked up. I mean, he's doing better now than he was pre-knee surgery. So if there was ever, I mean, at the same time, there's no ways that his knees and ankles are more fucked up than Marty Jannetty. And we saw Joey work miracles with Marty Jannetty on the first spring break. So I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not necessarily gonna make any advance opinions on talking this one down yet. I'm just gonna see.
Fair.
See what happens.
Excuse me. My apologies. Yeah, Psychosis, dude. You know me. I fucking love WCW. So any luchador that was ever in WCW, I'm a big fan of, and I would love to see that guillotine leg drop again.
Oh yeah, I'm kind of scared though, because anytime I see those dudes, those guillotine leg drops are like just terrible for any wrestler that does them. I just think of their back, their lower lumbar region and lower spine and
that hip, the fucking tailbone.
Yeah, I'm hurting right now just thinking of it. So
that's why I'm glad Fandango kind of retired that. I know, randomly talking about Fandango, but that was his big spot for. I haven't seen him doing it in a while, so I hope that is retired. No one needs to be doing that unless you're already fucked up. Do it one more time for a big match, a big payday, but no one should make that their fucking spot.
Pretty timely with the talks of Matt Hardy's retirement going at the moment, and him saying that leg drop was a big part of that for him for doing that for so long. So everybody stop doing guillotine leg drops. I mean, even fucking Hogan, like, he wasn't doing it off the top rope, and he's had all sorts of issues just from doing the running leg drop. So fuck me.
Yeah, that seems like a real low impact one that Hogan's doing, but still, sometimes there were those times where he jumped pretty fucking high up and tried to drop it. So yeah, guys, save the body.
Yikes. But anyway, I'm way invested and excited in the next step of whoever Joey Janela is working and who the big boss is going to be.
The juice,
the juice,
the juice, and Joey Janela, the juice. They're going to wrestle.
Oh, can we just get Conan on to do a sweet impression and talk about the weird sherbet ice cream blowjobs that Hoovy is gonna give?
You sign up for MFW right now, you'll get a orange sherbet hand job from the juice. Disco Inferno will lick your butt. That was the worst Conan impression ever, but you get it.
I think it was a pretty good Conan doing an impression of the juice by proxy. I enjoyed it.
Cool.
I don't know how many people we'll have on our podcast that necessarily get that reference. I feel like it's quite niche.
Because we're MLW, and like you're talking about original MLW podcast days, where a guy is doing a reference about a reference and an impression of an impression. That's pretty ridiculous.
Yeah, that's not meta at all.
No.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, I feel like it is time to get to the meat and potatoes of this. We actually hadn't mentioned it earlier. But we are.
Courtney's like, what? The meat and potatoes is now coming?
Yep. We've had our starters, and now we're ready to go to have a chat with none other than fellow Social Suplex podcast platform member, the voice behind Keeping It Strong Style, none other than Youngboy Josh Smith, and we're going to have a lovely little chat about the just madness of trying to watch the G1 as a whole. I don't know how I did it. I don't know how they did it, but let's have a chat about it. All right, here we go. Let's see how this thing works. I'll try to get him on just a sec.
You'd edit out the Kevin Gill parts too, so we don't have to get any heat from Kevin.
I think we weren't too mean, and I frankly don't think that Kevin Gill's going to be listening to our show.
He likes me. He might listen to me if he found out we're talking about it.
Just don't tag him. Nobody tag him.
They're going to now.
What's up, guys?
Hey, man. What's going on? Sorry for the lateness of this, dude. Sometimes we get a little bit sidetracked in doing the things on the early part of the show, as you probably know yourself from our general distractedness.
We got chatty. I'm back.
Did you guys count the number of video games, or was it VHSs this week, or what was it?
Chris didn't have to pee, so we didn't do either.
There's no male ladies.
No, we did have a run-in from the Queen. That was the thing.
Yeah, Chris got an email. He's pretty excited. He will be receiving, due to his citizenship in Brisbane, what was a portrait in 8x10 of the Queen?
Yeah, a portrait of the Queen. Apparently, we're entitled to as Australian taxpayers. So I got in touch with my local member of Parliament to make sure that I get this free portrait to put up on my wall next to Dan Seven.
The guy had to totally hit Chris up like, all right, we got to vet this. We got to make sure you are a eligible citizen. Are you one of my constituents? Really?
Forgive my ignorance. Is there a queen in Australia, or is it the Queen of England?
Yeah, they're ruled by the Queen of England, man.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, part of the Commonwealth.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
That explains the flag. I'm not great with the whole European history stuff.
I don't think many people are. We're apparently just a group of degenerates that were shipped out of England off to our own colony to just
dirty Australians.
Yeah. So we're just made up of degenerates and lowlives and people that steal bread, really.
But what's really great about it, mix all those people together for enough generations, they become Crocodile Dundee.
100%.
Just kidding, Chris. Sorry.
Oh, we are very proud of Crocodile Dundee, damn it. No.
As you should be.
It's like as Americans and Hulk Hogan.
Oh.
I hope this makes air. Please keep this on the show.
Yes, most definitely. Anytime there's a down period where we say I'm going to edit it out, I in no way do. But anyway, let's get back to it. I'll do a little bit of a intro for Josh. So, ladies and gentlemen, we have our latest guest of the show, fellow Social Suplex podcaster of the famed Keeping It Strong Style podcast. We've got the young boy, Josh Smith. What's going on, man?
What's going on, guys? Can you hear me okay?
Sir.
Yeah,
you sound great.
Yeah,
oh, that's
very
good.
smooth.
I don't have all the professional equipment that we usually have for the show, so I hope I'm coming through okay for you guys.
So people will maybe be hearing a little bit different Josh Smith to what they're used to. Interesting.
Yeah.
And more raw.
Well, definitely unfettered and uncut because I don't have Jeremy to hold me back anymore. I can go full heel.
Oh, watch out. Shit. But anyway, ladies and gentlemen, we wanted to get Josh on to discuss something that's not necessarily our wheelhouse. You know, we don't do the New Japan show. That's what Josh does. However, I mean, I somehow braved it through the insane experience of watching the entire G1 this year. I know that my friend here, Mr. Vanderbeek, has also watched some of the matches too. But you, Josh, like, I have no idea how you guys like made it through this entire thing, because you watched all of the tag matches too, right? Like, please tell me about this experience.
Everything.
Oh, it was like I thought you watched all non-tournament matches too. Like, these guys are fucking maniacs.
We did watch a good portion of it, so me saying like no, we didn't. It's not like we only watched one night of that or something. I'd say probably about half of them.
Yeah, I kind of cherry picked them. I kind of just went like the tag matches with the guys that I find interesting. I watched those, all ones that I heard good things about. You know, a lot of Jay White's tag match stuff with the sort of weird stuff that was going on with Chaos was kind of fun to see.
Yeah, his entire story arc through the tag matches was actually some of the most compelling stuff on the undercard. That's something if someone's like, oh, what should I check out? I'd probably recommend checking that out just for the storyline in general.
Mm-hmm.
That and the GOD stuff. Not super interesting, but you can tell they're heating them up for either a title challenge, which we're finding out now there is going to be a title challenge in in September.
Yeah, Long Beach, right?
Long Beach.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but they went undefeated the entire tour. I think it was like 19 wins, 20 wins, or something like that.
Yeah. I honestly, like, the only matches that I skipped through the whole like actual tournament matches were purely Bad Luck Fale and Tama matches. I mean, I don't mean to hate, but I just can't do it, man. It was such a turn off for me. I watched some of them, like the big kind of ones, and every time I was like, I feel like I've been punished for actually watching this, you know?
Yeah, I don't blame you at all. I think we watched those matches, me and Jeremy, just out of a sense of duty.
Yeah, I could see that.
For our listeners, but I mean,
hey, we should clarify just in case somebody doesn't listen to the other shows. There are two Jeremys in this story. There's me and his co-host. Continue.
Yeah, we have the good Jeremy on this show.
Whoa, whoa. All right, I gotta go, guys.
No, I'm just playing. But yeah, no. What were we just talking about?
About the Tongans.
Oh yeah, well we ended up giving our grades at the a few weeks ago when we reviewed the G1. I think I gave Fale an F overall and Tama a D. So I mean, I wouldn't recommend hardly anything that they did, honestly.
I mean, it's weird because Fale, like in previous G1s, he's sort of had some stuff that surprises you, like where you have a motivated Bad Luck Fale. It's like, shit, this dude's actually like a good, big man worker when he wants to be, and then there's other moments where you can tell he's not motivated and all the shenanigans and everything. But I remember like that last match that he had with Yuji Nagata last year, like that was some awesome shit.
Yeah, that was good. The match with Tanahashi in the G1 last year was very good too.
It was the gimmick this year that constantly had the guys interfering in each other's matches, like just totally disrupting the tournament.
Yeah, I mean, pretty much they just had all the like if it was Fale's match, then you were definitely going to see Tangaloa, Tama Tonga, and vice versa, and they were just going to either try to interfere and help him win the match, or just get the DQ to protect him, or sometimes they just get DQ'd for no reason. Like it really didn't make any sense. Yeah, I thought it was definitely a low point of the tournament just in general.
That's not like typically a New Japan style of like. They don't normally do that kind of like schmozzy shit, do they? Like, I watch the good key matches.
They do
every year, but okay, they do. I didn't realize.
Yeah, it's like kind of it's a weird thing, right? Because they do a lot of your schmoz kind of stuff when they just want to get heat on certain dudes. A lot of the time, the gaijins where they'll just do schmoz bullshit kind of stuff because it's like easy heat or whatever. And then you have other like feature stuff like your big time Okada or Tanahashi matches where they wouldn't do that kind of shit in those kind of matches. So it's like a weird line, but I mean more so than any other Japanese wrestling product really to me, New Japan kind of is known for that sort of more Americanized interference and dirty kind of stuff, at least at the moment. I think
I saw complaints of people about that. Like they're starting to on Twitter, like saying this is getting Gato's making it way too Americanized with all the silliness, all the bullshit. But that's a fair statement. But I think some of the complaints, honestly, I think it's just because this product's getting hotter and there's more eyes on it than there was before, and so there's new fans, and so they're going off of the fact that they cherry picked all these years and they didn't watch all these Road to shows when the Bullet Club and Prince Devitt were doing this all the time, or Minoru Suzuki and Suzuki-gun. Like I think it is a lot just the reputation of New Japan versus the reality. Because if you're consistent about it, this stuff's been going on for a long time.
Yeah, I think there's definitely something to that, like to your fair weather kind of fans who, and they sort of approach New Japan like this lofty, foreign, pure thing. It's like, oh, it's Japanese wrestling. It has to be this. And like, in all honesty, that's more of what like a Pro Wrestling Noah is, or like a 90s All Japan is. But that's definitely not what New Japan in this current era
modern days.
Yeah. So I think it's just maybe a lack of knowing the actual product, really.
No, I think some of the big outcry about the storyline with Fale and God and the firing squad is that it occurred during the G1. And so, yes, while we've seen stuff like this happen, it's never been in the G1. The G1's always been this like untouched sort of like sacred thing, you know? It's like, it's the G1. We take it seriously. And then when you see two guys just screw around the whole time and like literally just get DQ'd, and it's not really even their fault, it's Gato's booking.
Yeah.
I don't know where it's going, honestly. As someone who covers this, you know, year round, I don't really know. But yeah, it was kind of disappointing, honestly.
Yeah.
Hopefully it does lead to something good. I don't know.
Yeah, it's weird because, I mean, to me, like that Cal Palace show and the finish of that where, like, the Tongans really made their big mark.
Yeah.
I mean, I popped like fucking crazy for Meng doing all those pile drivers to dudes. That was great.
Same.
But,
I actually saw Meng at a indie show a few weeks ago, yeah.
Oh, how's he doing?
Yeah, good. He was supposed to be the main event, and then he figured out he didn't want a main event, so he went on third, and then he got out of there.
Calling his spots. Nice. Yeah, we just reviewed the Joey Janela Joey Janela Lost in New York show earlier in the show, where Meng was meant to have a significant part in that, but he unfortunately couldn't make the show due to the untimely passing of Jim the Anvil Neidhart.
Right.
But
that Sabu match was good though.
Yeah, man. It's funny, like when Sabu just like pulls it out, and he's like, "This is the exact same Sabu from late '90s ECW, mid 2000 Indies. He hasn't changed much at all.
Yeah.
Except he's got a genie now."
So I mean, like, what were your guys' thoughts on the G1 from what you guys gathered and seen?
Literally
what
everything of the G1 I watched all today before the show. I watched a total of 3 matches, and honestly, the last one I watched, Kenny and Ishii, was I had my roommate watch it, and he was popping because he doesn't watch a lot of New Japan. The whole time he's like popping at everything, like how like literally such strong style. But then Goto and Ishii, I watched a lot of Ishii because I love Ishii. Ishii and Goto. Fuck, Chris, you're a fucking the clothesline spots at the beginning where they're just slamming into each other like, you fucking guys, what the fuck are you doing? Oh, so good, man. Tremendous.
I love that match in particular because like I just love that kind of wrestling, that real physical, gruff, fucking fuck each other up kind of wrestling. Harkening back to your never title matches with like Togi Makabe and Goto, like that kind of stuff. But I mean, to me, that match was so great because it was two dudes beating the fuck out of each other, but at the same time not doing stuff that was like dangerous to the point of looking like they're really shortening their careers, which we got in a lot of the other B block stuff, like the high profile Ibushi matches, or like some of those Kenny Omega matches where they're just doing some spots where you're just like, why the fuck are you doing that? We don't need to see that for our entertainment.
The Naito match was insane.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that match. That was so good.
That's what I was going to watch next. Honestly, the finals, like that slap spot toward the end, like where they're just slapping. That
so intense.
Has to be the best slap spot I've ever seen ever, because like they were knocking their dude. I watch way too much New Japan and I'm all ramped up.
It gets that way.
You're talking about Tanahashi and Ibushi?
Yeah.
The
finals,
dude. Yeah.
Dude, I got emotional when that happened. I'm not
Me
even
too.
gonna lie. I literally like started getting like chills because I love Tanahashi, and like there's very few matches that make me feel like that. Like Flair and Vader from Starrcade '93 always gets me for some weird reason, and that match, watching that live, I was like I was starting to believe in the ace again. I was like, oh my god, Tanahashi's still here. He can do this thing.
Yeah, I was sitting down. I'm like, oh man, I have to fucking stand up to enjoy this. But yeah, especially watching my buddy Justin watch this stuff, who's a kind of a novice to New Japan. Like, he can't. When you're watching WWE and then you go and see these two guys really slapping the shit out of each other for a solid minute, like that had to be long, right?
It was a long time.
I mean, it's interesting to look at a match like that where it can be enjoyed on so many different levels. Because I mean, I'm probably the same as you, Josh, where like I was so invested in that Tanahashi comeback kind of story. Like even going back to that match with Okada, like you had the match with Okada on the prior Budokan Hall match, which was amazing. But even the match that they had prior to that in like was it Fukuoka? Where they were wrestling for the record of the most title defenses. So if Okada won, he would beat Tanahashi's record. And just the storytelling in that, like I feel like Tana is at like a level above everyone else in terms of just like telling an amazing story. It's almost like I think you guys were saying on your show about like a comparison between him and HBK. Like I can totally see that. And I honestly enjoy current Tanahashi more so than like Tanahashi from back in his prime, like your 2008 to 2012 kind of era. He's just so great, and he's so good at bringing out emotions and just telling a proper story through it, and just the story and emotion that he got out of this match with Ibushi just blew my mind. Like, I honestly, going into this tournament, I originally thought, they're of course going to either have Naito or Okada or maybe a Tanahashi win, but no one else. And then the way that Tanahashi won it, I was just like, fuck. I didn't necessarily want that to start with, but I know I want that now.
I didn't think for a minute that Tanahashi would be a realistic candidate to win. I thought he would because he's Tanahashi. I figured he'd be, one of those guys towards the end who was in the running. But I mean, I never actually predicted like he was going to be the winner. And then as the tournament started progressing and I started looking at it, I realized like probably 3 weeks ahead, like 2 to 3 weeks before the finals, I was like, oh my God, they're going Tanahashi. Because just the way that it started looking, I think the main thing for me was just that, historically speaking, Gato doesn't really like to book main events in the Tokyo Dome that have occurred in the prior year. If you just look at his track record, he doesn't do it. And Omega was in that B block with everybody that he probably could headline the Tokyo Dome with. And then you look at the guys in the A block that could have won. Jay White, he wrestled this year. Okada, he wrestled this year. And the one protected match, assuming Kenny will be the champion, but the one protected match is him and Tanahashi. And I was like, oh my God, that's going to be the main event of Wrestle Kingdom. It's real. And it was
it's
like
so
this,
weirdly
this moment of
fresh.
clarity.
Hey? Like, if so many matches that have just been done to death, this is one that's like, it feels really fresh right now. And I'm like really up for it. I mean, especially stylistically, because at this point, we've kind of gotten to a certain type of Kenny Omega match with a lot of V triggers, a lot of like,
There were like 7 in that one run with him and fucking Ishii. Like, what? That was crazy. Or like 7 or 8 in that one series. That was pretty nuts.
Yeah, and I mean, it's awesome for what it is, but at the same time, in some ways, overseeing a lot of these type of Omega matches, they start to not be as exciting as they used to be, I guess. But to me,
also Kenny, like, to be the top guy, really, like, he has to take down the ace, like even as somebody who is not necessarily watching New Japan as consistently as you guys, I could see that story from a mile away. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that's like really interesting, that stylistic thing of Omega working a Tanahashi match. So just seeing that really big time emotion story match, which I know Kenny's great at, more so than necessarily, you kind of video game style wrestling. Like, I'm actually really up for that match of Kenny and Tanahashi. And whether that's the completion of the Tanahashi redemption story, or whether it's the passing of the torch to Kenny Omega if he sticks around, who knows?
Right. I'm a gigantic Kenny Omega fan, and there's so many things. I think for my money, he's the greatest entertainer as a pro wrestler that's out there. That being said, he's getting a lot of criticism, just like anybody who wins the IWGP title does in the beginning, so it's not necessarily all deserved. It's just that's the price you pay when you're the champion. and you're in the early part of your reign, it's trendy to kind of do that for whatever reason. But here's the thing with him and Tanahashi. There's so many guys that Kenny's worked with, and like you said, he has this one style match he's kind of gotten into a habit of doing. There's very few guys that can teach Kenny something at this point. Tanahashi's one of those guys.
Yeah. Agreed.
Yeah, it's kind of like one of those things like slow down, kid, because Kenny does not, and Tanahashi will probably set that, that really pro wrestling pace that's not nonstop every fucking second. And Kenny is so versatile. It should work, but it's interesting to actually see him have to fit that mold, whereas normally I'm going out to be the fucking show stealer every single night.
Do you know what I think it is? I think it's the fact that in terms of physicality and athleticism, there's almost no one that can touch Kenny.
Yeah.
But when it comes to storytelling, Kenny tries really hard to have these beautiful moments in his matches, and sometimes they come off okay, but a lot of times they come off as overacting, just way, way, way over the top, unbelievable overacting, and it's hard to get invested in that. Whereas with Tanahashi, for whatever reason, he just has that. And so he might not be what he was 5 years ago, but anytime he wants to turn that on and draw you in, he can on a level that right now Kenny can't do that.
Yeah. Yeah,
I honestly, the Tanahashi, as we all talked about the redemption story, has been really interesting because honestly, I thought he was eclipsed by Okada. Like, I thought that was what had happened.
He was.
That was the story,
It literally was. Yeah, so interesting that they actually have followed through with the redemption story, because a lot of times they'll go partially there, where like the guy tries but fails. This time they're actually almost, Wrestle Kingdom, even if he doesn't win, I feel like he almost pretty much redeemed himself, right?
Yeah, and that's New Japan to a T, like in terms of
he has to win to be the full redemption?
Well, I don't know, because going back in New Japan booking, like they seem to, Gato seems to really not be one for nostalgia runs, like not on that top level. Like he would never book like, even though I would have loved it, like, a Minoru Suzuki IWGP title run, or like a Yuji Nagata IWGP title run. I would love to see those, but that Gato would never book it. So it's like sort of looking at, as Tana gets older, when is he going to start to be, more becoming like a Yuji Nagata type pushed guy. But it seems like is still pushing him to that top level. And if this is sort of the redemption story now, I'm all for it. It's really interesting stuff.
I think the interesting thing with Tanahashi's run through the G1 and his, redemption story is basically this. He didn't face all those killers in the B block. Like literally the A block was designed around giving Tanahashi a sense, or like a false sense of accomplishment. It was like the right place at the right time. Taking nothing away from the win, he benefited from favorable booking because he was in the lesser of the two blocks. And then when he ended up going up against Kota Ibushi, who is world class, but in the pecking order of New Japan, is not on the same level as the top like four guys. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like that outsider thing.
Right. And so it created a scenario where Tanahashi could feasibly win. Whereas if you put Tanahashi in the finals against, like, say, Omega, I don't know if he's winning that. He even the guys that he did beat, like Suzuki, he struggled with. Okada, even though he,
I love that Suzuki match, by the way.
I do too. But I think the thing with Tanahashi is, like, all of a sudden he's feeling himself again. He thinks he's the ace. But I think that the whole entire design and booking of this is that he really isn't. He really did benefit to an extent from favorable booking. And now he really does have to prove himself by defending this briefcase.
Yeah, that Okada match. I thought, to your point on that, it was almost exactly that story going into the match with Okada, where Tana just had to get the draw, whereas Okada needed the win. And you saw that Tanahashi, while almost getting a bit of a visual win towards the end, he wasn't able to beat Okada. And he hasn't beaten Okada in a long time. And he has to beat Okada in this upcoming briefcase defense, which to me, that's going to be a much more decisive thing if he gets the win, or whether Okada flips it and is the first guy that wins the briefcase and goes on to take that Tokyo Dome main event.
Yeah. What was it? Wrestle Kingdom 9 was the last time he beat Okada?
I think so. Yeah, it's been
I think
quite a
that was
while.
the last time.
Jeez.
Wow.
Yeah. So it'd be either way. Yeah. I mean, I personally could not think of anything worse. I mean, as great as Okada is, I really don't want to see another Okada Tokyo Dome main event. But I don't know. That might just be me.
I don't think that's going to happen this year, but I'm counting on it for next year, most likely.
Yeah. I could see that. All right. I mean, so now we're done with the G1. It's been a heck of a ride.
Right.
I sort of just wanted to talk to you quick about like the feeling of going through all of these matches, and the feeling of, it's almost like a stress of when you start to get a few days behind and you have to like catch back up, and then you're like, oh, I'm a couple days behind, and now I've caught back up on 1 or 2 shows, but now there's been another 4 shows, so now I'm 6 shows behind. How the hell did this happen? It's a stressful thing, but I mean, now we're done with it, and I don't know, just tell me how you're feeling now, like how you felt going through it, and now the sense of, it's almost like a peacefulness to me that we're gotten to the other side of this crazy juggernaut of a tournament.
Right. Yeah, so I mean, for sure. I've never watched the entire G1 before, even though I've followed New Japan extensively for years. I've always just cherry picked it.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, my experience is a little different because I have to cover it weekly.
Yeah.
So when I did fall behind, it became more hectic because it's like, okay, you fell a couple days behind, but you're recording on Monday, so you have to catch all of them up at the same time.
Oh man.
And you have no choice.
But how do you do that and you still get like watch it in a way to where you can like look at it in a proper critical way, and you can appreciate the match as much as you should to do it justice when you're talking about it? Like, that's the part that I can't get.
You hope you're good, man. Like, you just hope you're good and that you don't suck at podcasting. I mean, because I can have terrible takes, and I mean, luckily people like our show, which I'm always like honored and blessed that that's the case. But I mean, you just try your best because I mean, it's 100 matches in a few weeks, basically. In a sense, though, it's nice that I have that cutoff date of like, okay, by this Monday you have to have watched these shows, otherwise you can't record. So, it made me stay on track. But there were times where there were certain A block, cards where it was a struggle. I also would use outside resources, though. I mean, like, it's not like I'm just sitting here forming all my own opinions. I'll take a look at what the consensus was, and generally speaking, my opinions tend to, agree with the majority, hopefully. Guys that I think are like fair and pretty critical. And if I was like way, way off, then I'd be like, maybe I wasn't paying attention to that match. I'll go back and I'll rewatch it if I need to,
Yeah, it's an interesting thing because there were definitely some matches where I was just in the midst of trying to crazily catch up to where I'm like, that was an awesome match, but I didn't even think I really enjoyed it that much. And that's almost like I was saying to a friend, it's like the steak for dinner every night of the week syndrome. Like, where you're watching so much good shit that like you start to not appreciate how good it is just because of the bombardment.
Yeah.
I mean, oh, sorry, go on.
One thing I noticed this year, it was different from like last year. A lot of the nights were less consistently good. The high-end stuff was very, very high-end. I mean, I think Dave Meltzer gave more 5 stars out in this tournament than any before that.
Yeah, for real.
But at the same time, I remember like 2 or 3 years ago where it was like 4-star matches all night for a week straight.
Mm-hmm.
That never happened on this tour. There'd be like during a B block, maybe like 2 really, really high-end matches and then a lot of average matches. Yeah. So it was kind of different from like previous G1s. Like last year's G1, super high caliber wrestling the whole time, whereas this one had a lot of 2-star, 3-star affairs, stuff that was kind of forgettable. So it was like highs and lows along the way.
Yeah.
It was still a great tournament, but I wouldn't personally, as a fan, I wouldn't have categorized this as the best G1 or anything like that, which I think some newer fans are starting to do that already.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I almost agree. Like, there were higher highs and lower lows this year than like any as a combination type of thing. I mean, I don't know. You look back at it, and then you look back and you try to remember some of those previous years' G1s and like the best stuff out of that, and you're like, oh, it's such a tough thing trying to compare this stuff. But,
right.
I mean, I loved it. I'm really happy I watched it. I always enjoy it, and most of all, I'm really happy that it's over.
Yeah, I was happy with the trajectory that it went and the way that the finals played out. I thought it was booked excellently. A lot of very interesting things. I mean, it was a great tournament. There's a lot of things I could talk about, like the Yano storyline, the Juice Robinson storyline. There, it was a really well done tournament this year.
Shout out to the way that they spread out the really good matches. Like the way that if you look through it, those real top caliber matches were just perfectly sprinkled through, so you didn't have any like really long periods of just like stuff you have to get through. It's like you'd be watching 2 or 3 shows, and somewhere in that 2 or 3 shows there's going to be a just badass match. So that it was really well laid out in that way to me.
I liked that. Another thing I liked was in the past there's always been a lot of parity with the way they booked it. So going into the final nights, you have 4, 5, 6 guys that might be in the runnings, and they're all pretty similar. This year they didn't do that. They booked it much more similar to like those All Japan Champions carnivals from back in the day, where it was like the 2 or 3 guys.
Yeah, like your Misawa or your Kobashi, and then you have your next tier.
And then you had guys like Juice was out in like 4 or 5 nights, and that was it. And you're like, wow, he's already out.
But I mean, he still progressed on from last year. He had a better showing this year than he did last year, which is part of his overall story, I think.
Oh, absolutely. I'm not criticizing him in specifically, but what I mean is like instead of having all these guys be very similar and trade wins and be 50-50, they made the top guys going towards the end, and they eliminated like half the field real quick, which is something that they haven't done that with G1s hardly ever.
Yeah, I remember it got to a point and it's just like suddenly, all right, so Kevin Kelly's saying, all right, this guy's mathematically disqualified, this guy's mathematically disqualified. And it's just like, whoa, all over the place. So I thought that, agreed. It's so easy to do parody booking with this kind of stuff when it's so tricky. You even try to think about the mathematical way that they have to put this together to get such a great tournament, and it's just insane. But overall, I think they did an amazing job. In terms of MVPs, I listened to your last show. Is your MVP of the entire thing? I know how hard it was for you, as I can imagine it is for many of us. But are you still on that same pony there, Josh?
Yeah, I mean, it's tough. I mean, it really comes down to whether you're Team Ibushi or Team Ishii. And I mean, I'm so torn on it. I could easily go Ishii, and I wouldn't even bat an eye at that. But for me, I do have to go Ibushi just because, and I think he benefits from being in the B block finals and then having what was, in my opinion, the best match of the entire tournament with Tanahashi in the finals.
Yeah.
He just barely slightly edges out Ishii, who might have still had the more hellacious schedule of matches during the tournament. But yeah, for me, the MVP of the tournament is Ibushi, but it's like 1A and 1B basically.
Yeah. I mean, to me, it's Ishii all the way. I mean, I thought Ibushi was amazing, and I definitely agree with you. It's like one or the other. It's like so tough. But I wouldn't fault anyone for going either way. I mean, what do you think, Mr. Vanderbeek?
Of the 3 matches I watched, 2 of them were Ishii. So I think you guys know where I'm going. Because honestly, the Kenny and Ishii match was one of the best matches I've ever seen, and I did watch the finals. Like, the finals was tremendous, but especially Ishii getting the victory, where it looked like it was almost like definitely Kenny was going to get his victory back. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah, it just fucking tremendous.
And that was a
we
pivotal
spoke
point.
about it earlier.
That was like a pivotal point in the tournament in Kenny taking that loss. And that really set up a lot of the stuff that went on. But sorry,
without that loss, he would have won the tournament without that loss.
Mm.
Yeah, I just like I said, I watched Justin and watching somebody who doesn't watch New Japan typically like pop, and that's a wrestling fan, pop to all the shit that's going on. Like he's like, holy shit, oh my god, fucking, they both are so like they're putting each other over so hard. Like, dude, especially the series with like 8 V triggers too, and Ishii still was fucking coming back. That was tremendous, and then winning. I mean, I was blown away. I actually. No chance in hell in my mind that because I didn't want to spoil any finishes for myself, so I didn't look good. I did not think he was going to win, and he pulled it out. Stone Pitbull, fucking A.
Yeah, so good. I love me some Ishii. I've loved Ishii for a long time. So yeah, you sort of have that special place in your heart for the Pitbull to just pull it out time to time. You know, I'd love if one day we got Ishii winning the big one. Again, with the Gato booking, I don't think it's something that we would necessarily see. But at the same time, like I remember when Nakanishi beat Tanahashi for the IWGP Heavyweight title for like the greatest feel-good moment win, you know, one of the greatest in all of New Japan history. So it could happen. Who knows?
Yeah, I think that was like, what was that still under Inoki at that time though?
No, I think it was that weird time between the Inokiism era and the early Gato era, like maybe the Simon Inoki era. This was like around 2008, I want to say. 2007 feels more right, yeah.
Something like that. You know, they did just come out with the cards for Destruction, and the first Destruction big card, I think it's in Hiroshima. It's going to be Kenny and Ishii for the title. Yeah,
and I mean we've seen that a bunch of times before. With I remember Ishii beat Kenny in their match in the first USA Cup show. Is that it? Oh, and then USA Cup. I mean the New Japan Cup.
It was the New Japan Cup last year when he beat him.
Yeah,
and he eliminated Kenny the first night that he came back after he took that like long break following Wrestle Kingdom.
Yeah, and then they went to the finals of the USA Intercontinental, the USA title tournament that they had,
right.
And Kenny won that one. But yeah, good history, and I'd love for Ishii to win, but I have a feeling that we're probably headed towards Omega and Tanahashi at the Tokyo Dome, and I'd be totally okay with that. I think that'd be awesome.
I think the main thing here is with Ishii getting this kind of prominent run in a G1, which he's never really had before. It leads me to believe that he'll be doing something significant going into Wrestle Kingdom this year. I mean, I could be wrong.
I mean, could you see him getting to like a Intercontinental title run level?
It's still like such a long shot. I would love it. I mean, I would really love it, but I mean, they draw with that title. Like generally speaking, and I just don't know if the company is behind Ishii on that level. But we're getting to a new place where like the fans are starting to see it, you know, more and more, and the company's starting to get behind it. So possibly, it's not out of the realm of possibility at this point. Which I don't know. 2 years ago, you might not have said that about Ishii.
Yeah, I mean, always the underdog. Always the guy that you think is going to just come close to the mark but never actually win it. But he's been doing it from time to time. So
if he won the IC title, I would just freak out.
He's so good. But I mean, it's weird. Like the IC title's on ice now with Jericho. So it's almost like the first time that the IC title hasn't had a prominent place on a New Japan card, going back to before Nakamura won it. Going back to
did you guys hear that he pitched an idea to Vince to do IC title versus IC title at SummerSlam?
I did. Yeah.
I saw that. I'm like, yeah, that was probably like Hey, I have this idea. What is it? How about blah blah blah? No.
Yeah, apparently
I
got
don't
shot
know
down
how-
pretty
Get
fast.
the fuck out of here.
I don't know how true it is, but he said Vince like was receptive to it and then just never called him back. And I was like, how would that even happen?
Yeah, sounds like money, pal. I'll call you back. That sounds like a Vince McMahon blow off to me.
I've heard that a bunch though from those New York stories, because Batista had the same thing about him wanting to do the Triple H program. I remember Batista mentioned this in an interview where they were gonna maybe do him and Triple H going into this past year's Mania, and then at one point they just didn't return any more of his calls. So I don't know. Isn't that strange?
They ghosted him like you went out on a bad Tinder date and then you get ghosted.
Can't even give you the courtesy.
They didn't even jump on the bandwagon with the original Guardians. Maybe they're like, they realize they fucked up with the original Guardians, so if they actually try to pull them in now, that it's like admitting that they fucked up the last time, so they're not going to do it.
Yeah.
They are those kind of people. You know what I mean? The McMahons are like, we can't have made a mistake, pal. It's like freaking ridiculous.
We can't let them know that we want them.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's weird.
Who's eating?
Anyway.
What are you doing over there?
Yeah, what's going on? Someone eating?
Are you guys talking about me?
I think somebody's making noise. Somebody fell down or died or something. I don't know
Yeah,
what's
is
going on.
everyone okay here?
Yeah, we're here. All right, cool.
All
Hell of
right.
a bump, kid.
Yeah, well, I mean, to me, that was sort of it. I'm happy. That was a nice chat. Sort of encompassing our final thoughts on the G1, and also just a little bit about, as like a fan trying to watch this motherfucker, like just the reality of some of those moments, but also
So
the
daunting.
payoff of watching the whole thing. It was quite good. So thanks everybody for that, and I think it's time for us to close this mother down. So
Plug your shit, my friend.
Yeah,
Mr.
what do you
Guest,
got?
Mr. Josh?
You know what? Like while you guys were starting to wind it down, I realized that I needed to plug stuff, and I never do that on the show, and I don't really run our social media, so I started panicking. I was like, all right, what are we on? What kind of social media platforms do we have? But yeah. But yeah, obviously our show drops every single Tuesday. It's Keeping It Strong Style. It's part of the Social Suplex Podcasting Network. You can find us on Twitter it's at KI Strong Style. You can join our wrestling group online, the Wrestling Squared Circle on Facebook. On Reddit, I'm Keeping It Strong Style, and my co-host Jeremy is the Pro Black Guy. I think I did a pretty good job on that, right?
Nice.
Nailed it.
Well done.
Nailed it.
Well done, sir.
And thank you guys for having me on the show. It's midnight our time. I'm sure it's in the middle of the day where you're at, Chris.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, I'm actually going to be, in Chicago here in, what is that, 2 weeks for All In?
Dude.
Nice.
Yeah. That's awesome.
So I'll be there for that, and I'll be there for the AAW shows as well. So, I'll keep you guys in the loop. Maybe we could
Awesome.
do something in the future. Hopefully, I'll be more energetic and alive than I was for for this evening.
You're fine.
Yeah, I think you did pretty well, all things considered, man. Yeah, thank you so much for staying up so late. We appreciate it. And yeah, real fun to talk to you about this stuff, man. I mean, how much I'm fucking obsessive about this Japanese wrestling shtick. So, yeah, man, I'd love to do another something like this in the near future.
Yeah, an all-in coverage would be good. I think that's a smart plan.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And please keep an eye out for our boy Marcos in the Battle Royal.
Oh, okay. Who
Did
is
you hear
that?
about this?
No.
There was a dude that was on
Oh.
the Joey Janela Lost in New York show.
Oh,
He's
Marco
like,
Stunt.
yeah, he's
There
like
you
this
go.
4.5-foot kid who can just do some amazing shit. So we're excited.
Yeah. Jeremy Donovan was really, really putting him over hard to me, and I was like, I didn't know who he was. So I was like, all right, great. I'm glad you know who he is. So I'll have to check that out. He said, he said the same thing. He said he's amazing. So.
Yeah, I mean, maybe a bit rough around the edges. I think he's still pretty green in the overall scheme of things, but he can do some really fun stuff. And just in terms of the brief amount of him that we saw on that Joey Janela show, he was fun as shit.
From nobody to over in less than a match.
So crazy.
Yeah.
All right, man. So yeah, thank you so much, and big props to you guys' show. I listen to it as much as I can, and I listened to that last sort of wrap up one that you did on the G1. Great stuff, man. Always like your work.
Thanks, I appreciate it. Yeah, it's a monster episode. Like 3 hours, crazy.
Whoa.
Yeah, something crazy like that. But we love your guys' stuff. We love what you guys do here. So I definitely wanted to come on and get a chance to chat with you guys, and hopefully we could do something again in the future.
Sounds good, man. Sounds good. All right, buddy. All right. Well, you take care, and on that note of that gargantuan show that you mentioned, I'm going to do my best to prevent ours from becoming a similar 3.5-hour show. I know that my girlfriend Courtney would not be very happy with me if that happened.
Hey, Chris, before we get out of here, before we plug, we were discussing earlier a possible third, the top boss for the Joey Janela thing. What do you think about Masato Tanaka?
Ooh, I've got a little bit of
tingle up your spine, right?
Yeah, tingly, cheeky feeling from that one.
Yeah.
Oh shit.
That's what I'm thinking.
Well, being as much of a big time
chair shots in the fucking dome.
Oh yeah, big time old school ECW fan right here. So fuck, jeez, that would be amazing. Good. Yeah.
All right, go plug away, sir.
If we can't get Onita, I'll be perfectly happy with Masato Tanaka.
That's where I'm putting my money.
Yeah. So plug time. Ladies and gentlemen, again, we are always very proud and happy to be part of the Social Suplex podcast network. Other great shows that you can see on that front. We've got One Nation Radio, we've got the Ricky and Clive Wrestling Show, we've got the Outsiders Edge Wrestling Show, and the Mecca, Keeping It Strong Style, hosted by other Jeremy and our young boy Josh Smith. Big shout out to all those dudes, and props to Social Suplex as a whole. I always like to see all of the stuff that come up, the interesting chats that come up in the Facebook group that we've got. And you can find out about all that stuff at the hub of socialsuplex.com. You can find my stuff at the Twitter at Chris Things. I don't necessarily post a whole bunch on there, more so on the Instagram. If you chase me on there, Chris Things on the Instagram. Where are you at, Mr. Jaims Vanderbeek?
I am at Jaims Vanderbeek, Jaims Vanderbeek, for copyright infringement purposes. That is also on the Instagram. So if you want to check out my funnies, you can follow me on either platform. And if you are a professional wrestler or even a regular human being, an average blow, some might call a mark. If you need a shirt design, hit me up at Jaims Vanderbeek as well, and I'll be more than happy to help you out.
Do it right now. For all sorts of things that are not relevant to wrestling at all, just get shirt designs through this man. They're awesome. Does good work.
Fuck yeah. All right.
Wonderful.
Well, before we get out of here, I've adopted a little slogan that I stole from a television show to excuse us from the program, and it is, get swifty, ladies and gentlemen.
Get swifty. Thanks, and good evening.
Don't you know? That's the bird. Well, everybody knows that the bird is a word.